and welcome to Cinemania. It is Tuesday, May something. I do know what date it is. I am good at dates. I just can't always remember exactly what the day is when it comes time to say what the day is. So anywho, today I'm going to talk about two films because that is all I watched the whole way through. I was actually at a friend's house and we watched a couple movies, but he watched the films and I slept through most of them because I know that okay, so falling asleep during a movie, one film, that's pretty standard. I'm a snoozer. I can totally snooze. I usually don't when I'm in the theater, but but I can totally snooze through a film. But once that we're watching 3 films in a row and I'm just progressively snoozing more and more, that says I just needed a rest, which is probably why I only watched 2 films this week. And by this week, I mean the last 4 days, whatever the break is between Friday and Tuesday. 4? Yeah, sure. So, I watched 2 films that are considered what I would say bad movies. And they are not bad in the fun haha sense. They are films that were either critically reviled or, in the case of the latter, were expected to do a lot better and didn't. So, I am talking about Gary Marshall's final film, rest in peace, Gary. Shh to the honking. I don't know if you can hear that. But basically, Gary Marshall's final film, Mother's Day, which I watched on Mother's Day because I felt like going, let's do this. I had seen it. I'd seen the first part of it once before, and honestly, I think I had fallen asleep or had turned it off or just was not super into it. I'm a fan of Gary Marshall. Overboard's a favorite, Pretty Woman, Runaway Bride, there are a lot of his that I really, really love. And I really liked Valentine's Day, which is, Mother's Day is kind of the third in his template of, there's Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, which I've never seen, and Mother's Day. And Valentine's Day actually was very cute and is also one of those things where I always point to it and go, Taylor Swift can really act because she plays kind of a ditzy blonde high schooler, but she does it in such a way where I was like, okay, I see you, Taylor Swift. And it has some fun surprises. There's usually it's a bunch of different people's stories taking place on that day, and then they all connect, which is, Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, Mother's Day. So this one is Mother's Day, and it stars Julia Roberts' wig. Julia Roberts wears a wig that she wore in Notting Hill for a film that she was in that film, and the wig looks insane. It is the most, it is up there in bad movie wigs. It's a wig that only a mother could love. It is a wig and a half, which, it's Mother's Day. It also stars Kate Hudson, who, her mother famously was in Overboard, and her stepdad, adoptive father. And it also stars Jason Sudeikis, and God, there's a 4th person. That's the 4th big name. There's a lot of people in it, like Margot Martindale, Sarah Chalke. But there was one more Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer Aniston. Also, the funny thing about these 2 films that I watched over the last couple days is that they both have small roles from women that were leads in the show Pretty Little Liars. And if you know this about me, you know that I do a podcast with my friend Allie Keller called Pretty Little Monsters, which is where I talk about the show Pretty Little Liars because I have never seen it the whole way through. So I am currently working my way through. So Mother's Day has Shay Mitchell in it, and Where'd You Go, Bernadette, which is the second film I'm going to talk about, has Troy and Belisario in a role kind of in the last minute. So Mother's Day is honestly, okay, so here's the deal. Critics hated it, and I understand why they didn't like it. It is not as good as, I would say, Valentine's Day or Marshall's other work, but for watching it on Mother's Day, I still cried like a little baby. It has its flaws. It definitely has its flaws, but overall, it's 2 hours of pretty people being mostly charming or getting into wacky situations or dealing with family racism. That part's a little... Anyway, but there is a reality to, like, the complexity of families, which I do think it does have, even if it feels clunky and, like, you know, watching it today, you're going, okay. But I would say, yeah, I'd give it... Oh, God, I had a rating that I wanted to give it, but I'm just gonna give it... I'll say... You know, it's better than it should be. Also, Britt Robertson and Jack Whitehall are adorable in it. I'm just gonna say that. So I would say 2.5 out of 5 Hector Elizondo's speeches. Because, you know, he's a staple along with Larry Miller. Anywho, also, the other film I watched was Where'd You Go, Bernadette? Which is Richard Linklater film, and it stars Cate Blanchett in a distinctive wig as well. Also stars Billy Crudup, Kristen Wiig. I feel like Kristen Wiig would be great in a film just entitled Karen. Now, I know there was a Karen horror movie that Taryn Manning did, which I have not seen, but I feel like Kristen Wiig could play just like a raging Karen in a way that nobody else could, and it would be fascinating. I also love Kristen Wiig's more serious work. If you haven't seen Welcome to Me, that's the film I will recommend today because I think it is fantastic. She's also amazing in The Skeleton Twins, which is another one I would recommend today if you haven't seen it, with Bill Hader, Ty Burrell. It's lovely. But Where'd You Go, Bernadette? It is not, I would not call it a bad movie. I actually really liked it, really liked it. I would give it 4 out of 5 Megan Mullally cameos. But I think the reason that people didn't like it was because I think of its execution maybe, but I didn't have really any complaints. I think someone called it snoozy, and I went, you know what? If it's snoozy, it is really interesting in a film. Essentially, it's a film about being a very specific type of genius artist and what that looks like in the rest of your life versus what that looks like in your work life. And Cate Blanchett kills it. Surprise, surprise. And the young woman who plays her daughter, who I cannot remember her name, who it's her first film, was incredible as well. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. It's based on a book. I didn't read the book. My mom read the book. She loved it, and so I watched it because it was Mother's Day. And I loved it. I really, really, really liked it. Also, it was fun because it was set in Seattle, but partially filmed in Pittsburgh, and then Antarctica, but was filmed in Greenland. It's pretty delightful. There was a change in the book because in the book, apparently Bernadette's missing for a larger chunk at the beginning. And Richard Linklater said, if you cast Cate Blanchett, you need to have her on screen, which is pretty funny. Also, I love that Cate Blanchett with this film basically argued for less green screen and more filming on location, which is cool because, you know, a lot of times people cut costs, and if it's a studio film, which it was, even if it was more independent, I think it was Searchlight. Maybe it was Fox. Now I don't know who it was. Anyway, basically, you know, it's cool. I like when people do things practically. I also like anything shot in Pittsburgh. So there's that. So if you want to watch a film, watch Welcome to Me or The Skeleton Twins. Great Kristen Wiig journeys. Mwah.